huge muscle guy.
This is the Team Objection Podcast for March 15th, 2022, episode 520. If you saw the show title, you saw that there were a lot of L's in it, and the reason for that is multifaceted. We're going to get into that in a bit, but just know that we're going to be handing out some participation awards, or primarily I have some beef and I'm just going to spew about it. That's really the main cult of this, so join our cult, please. It hates the Lakers. Most of you should be joining us in that. It should not be hard.
I'm probably going to be taking one of those L's. I just have a feeling that's how this is going to go. But look, I'm prepared. I have notes.
MJ Gandhi.
Don't worry about it. We're going to get into it, Dave.
You can pause the video if you're watching live. You can be like, oh, what does that say? Do like a screen grab and then connect it with string like the guy from Always Sunny and, go into it. Or you can just wait for later in the show.
I like taking notes. It's great. You know how many times I've started a sentence with, here's two things, and I do the first one, and by the time I get the second one, I've forgotten what it is. It's not going to happen anymore because now I can take notes on this fancy whiteboard.
It's a sign of old age, really. And then secondarily, I totally agree with you because I have that happen to me all the time. And all you need is like a word. You need like just a little mark that's like, oh yeah, that's what I was talking about. And there you go.
I don't even know if it's specifically an age thing. I think that's part of it, don't get me wrong, but I think sometimes it's just we get caught in conversation and then afterwards you're like, oh, I was going to bring up this or like raise this point and you're kind of bummed you didn't. We're not trying to force it, but you don't want to miss something.
The only way I'd agree with age is, because I agree with you, Chris, because I was doing this more in the beginning of the show when I was nervous, and I would just lose my train of thought sometimes. It wouldn't even be like the 1-2 sentence structure. I would just be talking and meandering, and then I'd be like, and then I would panic. But I think it's a sign of age where I'm getting wiser, and I know, like, okay, I have this deficiency in my brain, but I'm going to counteract it by taking notes. We'll see how long this lasts.
Here's what I have to ask is, I have this thing that happens when I'm at work where I literally will open a program to start working on a task. And while I'm waiting for the program to open, I'll get either distracted by something else, like another email that just came in, or just literally forget what I opened the program for and be like, what the hell was I doing? Great.
Yeah. And
then it'll come back like 5 minutes later.
I'll do both of those, and then I'll end up, I'll also just get distracted because while it's waiting to open, I'll be like, oh, I'm going to like do this other thing. And then I get completely swept away on the other thing.
Yep.
And I was like, oh yeah, I had a thing and it was actually more important. And I should have been kept doing that.
Halfway through the thing I started doing, I'm like, oh shit, that was more important. I got to get back. And then I don't even finish either of them because I did half of each.
Video games too. If there's like a long load time, I'll be like checking something on my phone and then like 20 minutes has passed. I'm like, oh yeah, we're good now.
I've had that happen a little bit to me with breakfast recently because I'll put a bagel in the toaster oven and then go upstairs and start doing email stuff. There's been a couple times in the last 3 months where I've gotten super swept up in things with work, and then I think about the bagel at about noon. And it's like, well, I'm just going to throw this away because it is super stale now.
I always love when Courtney always told me that about coffee, especially when she had the little baby. It'd be like she'd make a pot of coffee, and then at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, it's like, oh yeah, I had coffee.
Yeah. I leave the oven on a lot too. Not a lot, but I say a lot in the sense of like really more than once is bad. And I've definitely done it more than once. And for like hours.
Trying to burn the house down.
Yeah, not so innocent of a mistake if everyone dies.
So see, we all take L's too. Ours are going to be smaller than some of the ones coming up. And I'll even add, like, I have notes. You can kind of see them. I'm not going to give away some of my stuff either, but I actually jotted a few down. And I don't ever do that, but today I was like, there's a couple of things I really want to get across, and I'm going to say them quite strongly, so I want to make sure I don't forget.
I'm really glad we started with... see, you take notes too, but I do it on a cool
Future
whiteboard.
episode right
you
here.
do it on your stupid, ugly phone. I am glad we started with self-deprecation because it's going to make my therapy session a little bit easier. I have a couple things, but you guys also have things, and I always prepare just in case no one has anything. You guys have stuff, so I'll just go with one thing. So, Dave, I had a realization today that I think you pointed out before, but it really hit me strongly in like a worse way than it's ever been. So, I have to concede that I am like Michael Jordan with none of the talent, right? So I go to the gym, my gym, Orange Theory, and they do the dry try. And I have not liked Orange Theory lately. I feel like they've gone downhill. The coaches like don't engage you anymore. It's like they're bored and, you know, whatever. Maybe I don't blame them, but it's not the same environment. It used to feel like a little bit of a community, and now it's almost like the opposite. Like they don't even like look at you. So I haven't liked that. They've been raising prices while also not fixing things that are broken. It's just kind of gone downhill. So it's like, fine, I don't want to do your guys' like stuff anymore. Like your races and your challenges, like I'm out. You do that, I'm fine. And I did have fun with Doug. Don't worry, Doug. I had fun with you. I still want you to join, Doug.
I hate it, but join.
Yeah, so we have a race coming up. It's the dry try. This is the one, Dave. I've won it in the past a few times. Then I went the All Arizona one. And I won that one. And I was like, I'm good. I don't. It just sounds like a big humble brag, but it's just true. I don't need to like go and win this one anymore. It's fine. Somebody else can win. I don't want to engage with you guys anymore. And it's gotten so bad that they won't acknowledge me during class when I do something that I feel is good, that I've realized I want to enter and win just to spite. Like I use it as fuel. So I wasn't going to enter at all. And I'm like, fine. You don't want to talk to me. You want to pretend I'm not here. I'm going to enter. I'm going to win your whole thing. So basically what I'm saying is I'm making up spite in order to fuel me to a thing that probably doesn't exist at all. I'm probably reading into it, and yet it is propelling me into training harder to win the thing.
Your level of mental gymnastics are world class. It's Olympic level, to be fair. I just am always stunned. Like, at least Michael Jordan had I'm going to make millions and millions of dollars by being the best. You are going to get a small trophy, maybe.
No, not even. Nothing.
Literally nothing.
I won't even, I don't think, get recognition at this point. They'll like post it online. I don't even follow them on. I don't even have a Facebook.
So at least he had some sort of tangible benefit. You are literally just trying to hurt people at this point.
My tangible benefit is I'm going to take it away from everybody else, and then I'm not going to engage. I'm not going to be part of the pictures at the end. I'm just going to take it and leave.
That's not tangible. That's the exact opposite.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. There's nothing tangible from this.
I mean, Maisie says you'll get a mimosa, which you could still just do without winning the thing.
I don't want their mimosa. Yeah, and I don't even want it.
I can make
you a
drink
mimosa. It. Dave, you can come drink the mimosa for me. That's fine. I literally want to walk in, win the thing, walk out. That's it.
You want to pull the Larry Bird in the 3-point contest and walk into the room. All right, which one of you fuckers are getting second tonight?
I feel like if you could, I think you're right that you would just walk in, walk out. But I think if you could, you would do what that one guy does in the comic with the Olympics, where like he gets the champagne, he pops that, and he sprays it all over the place, and he chugs that, and he like kisses the girl who gives it to him, and he takes the medal and he bites on that, and then it pans across and he's in third place. You'd be in first in this scenario, but you get the idea where it's like if you could be demonstrative and not like get thrown out of Orange Theory, you might think about it.
It would actually be amazing in a way if I did lose, because then that would. Part of the thing with training is like you do the same thing for so long, you start to lose motivation. My big rival is like he fell off the face of the earth now. So that's not a thing anymore. So maybe it'd be good for me to like just get my ass kicked and then that like re-engage all my training, you know?
I guess my question is, when it comes to this, why do you care about what they think?
Because it's punching back, Dave.
To
What do I always tell you? You got to punch back. I'm punching back on a punch that probably didn't happen. You know what? Like if you're walking down the street and something hits you in the head, you're like, that person punched me. They probably didn't. Probably something else happened, but I'm going to punch back.
So if someone cuts you off while you're driving, do you want to go chase them down?
Strangely, no. I've really calmed down with driving. We were just talking to Mace about this today. Super calmed down with driving, but I've really leaned into the I will make up spite to win competitions when I didn't used to. So it's kind of like, it's like channeling that energy. I don't just have to spite everybody. Like when you win in 21, I'm like, great. That's, that's not, I'm not like, oh my God, I can't believe this. I'm not upset.
I don't believe
but
that.
But when you win and you don't know Jack, and then you proceed to talk shit for the next 45 minutes, then I get spiteful.
See, Sean's over here saying like, I don't even want to enter this contest. I'm just so good. I'm going to win it anyway. And then I talk, I say a little bit about, hey, I'm glad that I won this You Don't Know Jack game. This was fun. I'm glad I won. Fuck you, Dave. You suck.
Yeah, except Dave, he doesn't do it like that. He's like, wow, I'm surprised you guys didn't like score better because I found all the questions to be really easy. And yet I'm looking at the score and I'm ahead by like 1,000,000 points. And I just don't know, like, what? Are you guys fucking stupid?
I'm going to push back a little bit, too. I think Sean is quite welcoming when it comes to basketball because he really just enjoys playing, especially with us. So I'm not trying to give him too much shit. When Dave gets close to 21, Sean takes it personally still.
Yes.
Like, Sean's usually standing about a centimeter away from Dave on the final free throws when the game is on the line. So there's definitely not nothing there. Let's just be very clear.
We have video evidence of this on our YouTube
I'm just
channel.
doing for his benefit,
Yes.
I want Dave to elevate, and if I'm standing right next to him, that's
as
like
one
all
does
the pressure.
in game situations when there are free throws.
Yeah.
The referees just let you mull about right by the free throw line.
Yeah, well, because I was like, Dave, do it for your daughter, if you recall. And you did, and you did. You hit that free throw. So yeah, Caitlin will be very pleased.
Like, this is super insular, but if you watch our YouTube video of our most recent time playing basketball, Sean guarded me super close on one, and I hit a 3 in his face, and the look on your face was just pure anguish and disgust. Just like,
yeah, because if I'm guarding you close, I'm like, you shouldn't make that. I was like,
right. You didn't deserve it.
Yeah, I earned you missing. So if you made it, that's just like, that's very frustrating.
But I earned me making at that point.
No. You got lucky.
Okay, that's what it is.
No, you did. You do earn it, but I'm like, basically what happened is I know you earned it, and your willpower out-willpowered me, and that's the look you see on my face. It's like your willpower is just not there yet.
So did we have a breakthrough on your therapy today, or how did this go?
No, you basically confirmed what I think I already know.
You're an asshole.
Psychopath. We didn't even get to my Civilization 5 thing. We'll get to that in a future week. Let me tell you, did not go the way that I was hoping it would go.
Do you build societies just to destroy them?
No, I don't know if we have time. I'll get into it.
I was
going to play the pacifist role. I've never played Civ 5, so I'm going to take it seriously. This is going to be like my canon playthrough, right? Gandhi's my friend in the other country. And I'm like, cool. I want to be a pacifist. Who better than Gandhi? So we get going, and he's like, hey, let's have open borders. I'm like, cool. Great. This is going so well. And he's like putting people in my country, and I'm like, awesome. I'm putting people in his country, and and he's like, you better back up if we're going to maintain this relationship. And I was like, okay, Gandhi, that's fine. All right. That's weird. And then like later, he just keeps making little fucking jabs from Gandhi, being like, wow, your military sucks. I'm surprised you haven't been invaded yet. And I'm like, oh, all right. I thought we were just doing like a trade agreement, but this is fine. And then he threatened me again. So he's just jabbing. And I was like, all right, I guess we're at war now. So I declared war on Gandhi.
Sean took it personally.
And it was like a wave of death across his country. Okay. And at one point near the end, he's like, okay. Enough senseless violence, right? Let's call a truce. And I was like, oh, yeah. Now you want a truce, Gandhi, huh? You talk so much shit going up to this point, and now that I'm kicking your ass, you just want a truce. I don't think so. So I wiped him off the map. And then England was like, we don't really like what we did with Gandhi. And I'm like, fucking do something about it. I was going to say a word, but I can't because it's the Queen of England. So I didn't say that. So then I'm like, fine. If I got to invade England, I'll invade England too. This, as you can see, very quickly turned into just world domination, right?
Sean's the new Hitler.
And I just kept getting provoked, and it would have been fine. I would have been a pacifist if they weren't so rude.
Wow. So Sean became Hitler.
There's a lot to unpack there, sure.
Yeah. The theme song of Sean is "Don't push me because I'm close to the edge."
And then Edinburgh was like, "Hey, you should take over Dublin for me." And I was like, "Sure, Edinburgh, fine." They're like, the world map gets all like messed up. So Edinburgh's like over here. They're on my border, and Dublin's up there. So it's like, fine. I mean, easy. Dublin is like 2 seconds. So by this point, I have like guns, and they still have like knights. So I just walk up and blow them away. I feel a little bit bad. I took over the Iroquois at one point, Dave. Yeah, and
the ocean.
They were like, because he was being a little asshole too, the leader of the Iroquois, and he was like, "You're evil," and I was like, "Okay, you want to see evil? Here it is." So I wiped them out, and he was like, "You've slaughtered all of our braves. You've taken away our future. Perhaps in our next life, we'll find the peace we were denied here." And I was like, "Wow, I feel really bad." But anyways, I got to go kill Dublin. So I went. I wiped out Dublin, and Edinburgh's like safe. They're cool. They're my ally. And then all of a sudden, they're like, "We don't really like how you've been running stuff. We're not cool, and you better stop." And I was like, I've by this point controlled 95% of the world, and I was gonna leave Edinburgh, but now they're being little assholes. So what I've done, Dave, is they're like, "You've completed the game. It's over. Like you've won. Everything's done." But I want to keep playing because I want to develop nukes. And I want to drop the nuke on Edinburgh just to make a point, you know? Because you got to teach when you yeah, this story was a lot better too before all the Ukraine stuff. But look, just in this, it's a video game. You got to make a point so they don't think to revolt later.
Wow. So I agree with Mikilla. This has taken a turn. This therapy session has taken a very big turn.
Lincoln said, "You really want to teach people, you should just nuke your own capital."
So we had a running joke years ago regarding Sean running for president. This is now a terrifying thought of Sean being president, shown once he has power.
If you can just all be polite, it would be totally fine. I'm so happy to be a pacifist. I was going down the pacifist route. You just kept, it was Gandhi just kept pushing me. Just pushed and pushed and pushed. With like little comments. Not even really anything all that bad. Just like little, like kind of like a bully. He was just kind of a bully. And then I showed him what a bully was. When I dominated his country.
There's some parallel out there where you're like the guy that is super nice, then he gets pushed, sees red, and then all of a sudden there's dead bodies everywhere around him. And he like the Hulk almost, where he just comes out of it like, what did I just do? Oh my God. Who killed all these people?
Well, no, I would be like, I wish they didn't make me do this. You know, I would know it's me. And anyway, so I learned a lot playing Civ 5 is the moral of the story.
You're a psychopath. That's two examples.
And that deranged heliocentric nature does sort of serve as a segue into our second topic, which I think is appropriate.
Perfect.
As we move out of the therapy session that was not therapeutic.
I found it very nice.
And let's talk a little bit about Russell Westbrook, shall we?
Westbrook.
I know that seems like it doesn't make sense, but if you follow the NBA, it actually kind of does, because Westbrook came out last week. We kind of alluded to it at the start of the show, but we had to get to hit list, so we didn't get into it a ton. But he talked about how essentially he didn't like the Westbrook nickname because it sullied his good name, and his son had to hear about it at school, and he didn't find it to be very fair. Now, coupled with this is that because the Lakers have been so god-awful, more on that later, they've also been kind of seeing a rise in like death threats to him because he's been pretty terrible this season, and the death threats have also extended to his family. So let's take a two-pronged approach here. One, because I don't think it takes much discussion, sports fans can be a little too crazy, and there's never a scenario whatsoever where you should send someone a death threat, especially the family of a player. Really no one in general, but certainly not anybody who's out on the floor, right? Easy, okay?
Easy. We agree. Maybe Sean doesn't.
The more complicated part is, how do you feel about the whole Westbrook situation? Is it just a little pedantic? Is it silly? Does he have a point? Is it fair that his son has to hear about it? Like, where do you stand on that?
Oh, no, I think so. I mean, it's not even worth talking about the death threat part, right?
I mean, I would hope that this podcast is pretty clear about, like, you don't make death threats to players even, certainly not their families.
Yeah. Now, the Westbrook thing, I think, is a whole other can of worms. I don't really understand it. First of all, by calling out a nickname that you don't like, you are ensuring that people are going to keep calling you that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think I take issue with certain language. I will not allow this name to continue being used.
Good luck.
Is one thing. And that's where my little stop sign. How exactly are you not going to allow this, Westbrook? What are you going to do? You call me Westbrook? I'm going to stop playing? If anything, that would just make the fans happy. The LA fans now are pulling for him to get hurt, which is terrible, but they think their team will be better if he is no longer on it. That tells you everything you need to know. The other thing I take issue, it's not fair to me or my family. Okay, so talk to me about fairness. You're making $45 million to play basketball. It comes with all that comes with it. $45 million. You're telling me it's not fair? What's fair? You suck at basketball right now.
That's my whole thought process. Like, you cannot expect to take all the glory and all the benefits of the position that you're in without understanding the downside that it comes with. You know that going in, you've seen it. LeBron takes horrible things from many people all the time. His teammate, he sees that. I bet Anthony Davis gets it. I mean, any professional athlete, any famous person is out there and has their list of haters. They have their list of stalkers. They have their list of, adoring fans. You got the good with the bad, and you have to understand that this is how it works if you're in the public eye. And I agree with the sense of nobody should be saying anything to his kids or wife or anything like that. They're separate from that. They didn't necessarily choose this the way he did. Family to me is off limits when it comes to that stuff. But you can't say, don't call me Westbrook. Well, now you're going to be called Westbrook all the time. You should have learned that in about first grade. Yeah.
It's stunning. Do you think the son could have taught him that lesson? Because what do kids do? Well, they're assholes most of the time. Mm-hmm. Like, most kids are bullies if they get the opportunity because they don't really have the repercussions for doing it. So they just decide, well, this is kind of fun, putting somebody else down. I feel better when I do this. And if they weren't going to call him Westbrook or his son Westbrook, they would still be like, yeah, your dad sucks. Because kids are mean and they do stuff like that, right? I mean, Russell Westbrook has made a career out of hell-bent on doing things his own way, using his overwhelming athletic abilities and considerable talents in some fields to be it's basically like a force of nature that overwhelmed the NBA for a period there, especially after Durant left and before Pat Beverly took away years from his career, probably. Which I could bring its own side tangent for.
Yeah, I probably will. We should at some point.
It would be kind of funny after his comments on JJ Redick's podcast where he tried to make himself out to be a victim. Yeah. And we're not going to. I don't want to talk about that.
I refuse to listen to that one because I hate him that much.
Dave, all you got to know is he said, Russell Westbrook destroyed my career. No, Pat, I think you destroyed your own career.
He had not missed a game, I don't think, in the NBA until that injury, and he had basically to get 3 surgeries to repair the damage from it on a timeout.
So much. I hate him so much.
Yeah. Anyways, I don't think we need to go into that. We already hate Pat Bev. All my homies hate Pat Bev. Anybody who listens to this podcast should probably hate Pat Bev. You know what I haven't done to Pat Bev? Make death threats. Anyways, Westbrook has for all these years been adamant about, I'm going to do things my way. My way works. I'm the triple-double machine. I'm an MVP. Sure, I don't have any playoff success, but whatever. Now that his game is falling apart and his athleticism is leaving him, he's accelerated this decline in a way that I don't even think any of us could see coming. We questioned the fit when this trade was announced back before the start of the season. This has been worse than I think anyone could have imagined. He is shooting 9% from 3 since the All-Star break. 9. He's a 30% career three-point shooter on 3,700 attempts. He will not stop shooting them, no matter how many clank off the side of the backboard or the concessionaire in the third row. He won't fucking stop. So to understand then that, if you refuse to change, this is what's going to happen. Because if he was contrite, if he was like, look, I know I'm in the back half of my career and I'm trying to figure things out, I still want to try it my way, I think fans would be forgiving. But instead, I don't need to change. I'm not going to do anything different. Well, your team fucking sucks, and so do you.
Yeah.
So take this hate.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's the part that gets me too, is I refuse to change, and in fact, don't talk bad about me. Like, rather than changing your approach, like, I look at Jason Kidd, again, like, one of the great athletes, changed the game completely as he got older, and helped Dallas win a championship. Russell Westbrook is doing, like, the opposite, almost leaning harder into these bad habits. The one, I'm sure it happens all the time. He bricks a jump shot. I mean bricks, and he does it all the time. I really wonder if something's going on there, like nerve-wise or something. Like, they're so off. I don't understand it. He missed LeBron on a wide-open pass, though. That would have been a dunk. And it was a jacked up, it was covered jump shot. And you're just like, why are you doing this? And then rather than owning up to it, you're just criticizing everybody else for criticizing you.
He has a real easy solution if he doesn't want the criticism.
Make shots.
Retire.
Oh,
It's what I said earlier. If you can't have the benefits without the downside. And so if you don't want the downside, get out of the spotlight. It's that simple. Like, you can't just sit there and say, I'm going to do it my way and continue doing it my way while actively hurting other people's careers. I mean, there are people whose, I wouldn't say legacy, but their careers are impacted by this terrible season that the Lakers are having. So
I think your approach is probably more fair because he's not going to be able to make shots. We have plenty of sample size that suggests there's nothing he can do to stop that at this point. So maybe you're right, because he's got 2 or 3 examples on his own damn team of players who once were stars who have had to adapt to stay in the league. And while you can argue about how good Carmelo Anthony is at this point or how good Dwight Howard is, they've at least changed to a certain extent. And they've had to. They've realized their shortcomings, and while they can't necessarily change who they are as a player, they can at least change the way they play and pick their spots to a better way that fits with their teammates. Somehow, Russell Westbrook still has not learned that lesson, and I'm not sure what it's going to take for him to, but there can't be a whole lot else that's going to do it.
I almost even disagree that you can't go after the kids, which sounds really terrible. We've already
clip that real quick.
Yeah, we've already established like the death threats are no go. But again, your family and your kids are benefiting from these millions and millions of dollars. All the perks is you and your family. So if kids are going to your kids at school and saying, "Wow, Westbrook," again, really, the line that stood out to me is like, people are going up to my kids and saying Westbrook. So what, man? Come on, are you so sensitive? And again, like, you want to enjoy all the perks and you want to eliminate all of the cons. Well, life's not like that. And you probably have had that for a good decade or two.
What I would love is the idea of, Westbrook's kid saying, "Dad, this guy over here was making fun of our name." Okay, and Westbrook comes up, "Hey, kid, you think I suck? Let's play one-on-one." And, like, he just dunks all over him. Like, because he's still an NBA player, would wreck 99%
That would have been
of
a much better... I mean, look, you go to the Devin Booker just really quick. Like, total class act. Anthony Davis comes in saying, we all know, the Suns, which I thought was really amazing, saying... The Suns know, too, that we would have won if I had not been hurt.
They got away with one.
And Booker's saying, like, man, why? Like, things happen all the time. If ifs were fifths, we'd all be drunk, which I had never heard, but it's a sort of old man saying that did not surprise me that Booker said.
If my auntie had something between her legs, she'd be my uncle.
If was a fifth, we'd all be drunk.
Yeah.
Yep. And, the other me, yeah. If my mom had wheels, she would have been a bike. was the meme under there, and it's like, what? Yeah. Like, yeah, ifs, ands, or buts, whatever, man. You lost. You got hurt. You specifically can never stay healthy at all. So just let it go. And that's what Booker kind of said. Like, just let it go. So you have super class act. Booker just laughing, taking it in stride. And then I just look at Westbrook on the other end. It's like, so does not lean into it, and it just makes it that much worse for him and everybody.
When you hit that level of success, I can't figure out for the life of me why you care what outside people say. Like, why do you care what people would say on Twitter? Why do you, like, Kevin Durant's an example of that, who, like, really cares about social media and what people say about him. Why? They don't matter. The only ones that matter, and that's what Booker does. To me, that's what it seems, is that he focuses on his peers and what they think of him. Because they're the people that matter and are actually going to have an impact on his career. Some rando on Twitter isn't going to make a difference on your career. Yet some people cannot get that out of their heads, and I don't understand it. Even when you've achieved these pinnacles of success, like having an MVP like Russell Westbrook does, it's crazy to me.
Yeah.
You brought up the name Kevin Durant. I think it's an interesting one because remember what Russell Westbrook did after Kevin Durant left Oklahoma City?
Cupcake.
Yeah, I remember.
Mm-hmm.
I remember he helped push along that whole cupcake thing that Durant
Sure
got besieged by. And people were like, well, that was different because he left and he betrayed them. First of all, no, he was a free agent after 10 years, and fuck that. I understand the disagreement with him going to Golden State to a certain extent. Even I don't agree with that. But the idea that he owed them anything is ridiculous. So he was more than content to do it to somebody else earlier in their careers. Can't take it himself. And that's, to me, the tone deafness is what hurts the most. If he was willing to train and change it all, I mean, Shaq Rock was asking, like, does his skill set allow him to change at this point? I think there's certainly a reason it could. We saw it from Rajon Rondo, who I don't think is that different from Russell Westbrook. I think he's like a 55% version of Russell Westbrook.
Yeah, exactly how I was going to put that, yeah.
Like Russell Westbrook, certainly a better athlete, a better scorer, but overall, like the rebounding for their position, the passing, I think there's a lot of parallels there. And Rondo, who couldn't shoot a three to save his life, has become like a 35, 36% three-point shooter, which guess what? Is all you need. No one's expecting Westbrook to shoot 45% from three, but they'd like him not to shoot 30%, or if he's going to, they'd like him not to take 6 per game.
Or shoot 9%.
Or 9%. Yeah. So to me, it's just, it just feels like he's been surrounded by people who tell him what he wants to hear for so long that he's lost touch completely.
Aren't teams are guarding him that way too? They're doing the Ilgauskas thing where they're like, please shoot it. We're going to go off you. Go ahead. You're wide open.
In that Suns game, they had a little pin down where Booker got caught behind it on the sideline, and he just didn't even really try to fight over it. He didn't try to contest. Westbrook pulled up from 18 and airballed it. Wide open. And it wasn't like Booker was fighting to get over the screen. He was just kind of like, I guess I'm here now, so I guess I'll box out this inevitable miss.
Oh, and then Jay Crowder went and hit a three.
Yeah.
I know that play. Yeah.
Correct.
So what I can't figure out, I don't know how, maybe he just really was blessed with this amazing athletic ability that he has, but like most successful people realize their shortcomings. I've just seen and heard that from people who make successes. They understand their limitations and either try to correct them or work around them or have someone else help to fill in those shortcomings. How does Russell not see this? How does he not see where his shortcomings are? Understand that he's got 3 years left in this league, maybe.
Because it's all mental.
If more than one.
He strikes me somebody who has like the yips.
Yeah.
And just doesn't have the mental fortitude or the desire or whatever to address it. And because it's all like, I think the shooting, but also the refusal to change, the refusal to adapt. I think he could adapt his game and be okay. But he's not going to change.
Or again, like you're an NBA player. Maybe he has. I don't know his training schedule, but how are you not in the gym all summer, every summer shooting? Like,
yeah.
It's just your job. Like you have to, like when Brook Lopez can become a great 3-point shooter, when Rajon Rondo can become a good 3-point shooter, how is it that this doesn't happen?
Jason Kidd, the example from before.
Don't you have to fire Frank Vogel? And look, I'm not a Frank Vogel fan at all, but like,
I don't even know where you start with this. That there's no chemistry on this team, and we're gonna get to another reason for that here just in a second. There's no morale. There's no fight. They rolled over not only against us when we put up 48 in the first quarter, and then got their ass kicked the very next night by the Raptors when they could only score 12. And like for all the things we just talked about with Westbrook, we didn't even say a word about his defense, which is atrocious.
Yeah.
And again, hasn't ever been a phenomenal defender, but at least on ball he was decent. Maybe it was athleticism, so it could help him stay in front. He gets lost on so many possessions now where you're just like, are you just spacing out? Like, what are you doing?
I just feel like typically this falls on the coach for right or for wrong. And like fire Frank and bring somebody in, like even if they're a scapegoat, interim coach who's going to bench Westbrook, like, I don't know, do something, but maybe like it's a lost season and I don't know, but
LeBron doesn't want him to. Might be GM LeBron.
Doesn't want him to what? Not start?
Vogel? I don't know.
Oh.
No, to not have Westbrook play. I don't know. Like he wanted Westbrook in. This was driven by LeBron.
I remember the quarter, do you guys, when Westbrook is talking to AD and LeBron, and he's over there and like, what's he saying? And it turns out he's like, I'm sorry, guys. He's like being like passive aggressive. I'm sorry I can't be out there to help you because he was benched in the fourth. And he's like, he just doesn't get it. Just at every point where he could show some sort of growth, he just refuses.
Mm-hmm.
Hard to root for a guy like that.
Yeah.
You know who else it's hard to root for right now? Segue. So, we have gone down the LeBron Michael Jordan road several times on this podcast, especially rekindled by The Last Dance. And I think over the last year, whatever semblance of any of the three of us taking LeBron over Michael has been obliterated. Is that fair and sane? All three of you would have Michael over LeBron at this point in the GOAT conversation?
I've always, yes, but, I think we all talked about, like, if he wins this championship with this team, we have to put him in the running, and we're far past that.
Okay. Dave was kind of the hard one because he's never been a big Jordan fan. I mean, obviously, he's respected Jordan's game, but he kind of thinks of him as a giant asshole. I'm going to raise a counterpoint to that. I think LeBron James is also a giant asshole. Yes. I think the difference between him and Michael is smaller than people want to give credit for. And let's be very clear about something up front before I give the two of you a chance to chime in on this. Last game, LeBron lost his fucking mind against the Raptors. And I don't blame him to a certain extent. It's been a terrible season. He's watching low-effort performances around him. He's 37 years old, and he's trying his damnedest. He had 2 50-point games last week, and those are the only games the Lakers have won since the All-Star break. That's what it takes, is LeBron going absolutely crazy at his age. People for a long time have wanted him to show that kind of passion, because that's what Jordan did, right? Jordan was relentless. He would go after his own teammates. He would punch them out in practice. All those stories we've talked about before. And last game we saw it, LeBron slamming the ball into the court when he didn't get a rebound and got called for a foul. Trying to take out Scotty Barnes' head on trying to save a ball from going out of bounds when he could have thrown it off of any other part or just saved it to a teammate who was right nearby. Elbowing somebody in the face with 20 seconds left in a 10-point game. We saw all of this happen for the first time, I think, in a meaningful way. I am so tired of watching LeBron fans try and defend this. I don't care that he's 37. What he's doing is remarkable. He is a phenomenal player, still the guy I would take second of all time. This team sucks, and he needs to wear that. That's the end of that declarative statement. His team sucks, and I don't care that AD's been out, and I don't care that Westbrook's a shell of himself. He needs to wear that. And he doesn't show any sign of it either. He's almost as tone deaf as Russell Westbrook, and that's almost more infuriating to me because he's savvy enough and smart enough to know better. Go ahead.
Mikhail, really quick, there I saw a line of the last game that said, and this just in, Suns beat LA 119-90. And I was like, oh, wait, what? It's only the third quarter?
Yep.
So, yeah, they blew them out big time. They crushed them. I think they won by 30. Anyways, yeah, so it's hard. If you have a team, like, in my limited, I try to bring these allegories in, even though, like, I'm, like, way down here and we're talking about the NBA, but if you're a player on a team and your team gives up, it's really hard and it's really frustrating. But I just look at someone like Devin Booker, who didn't have NBA players on his team for, like, a decade.
His first few years of his career, which is the formative years.
And I never really... I don't know, maybe I have my blinders on and maybe there's a couple examples, but like for the most part, I never really saw him throwing temper tantrums or fits. He just kind of took it and everybody was like, get my boy out of Phoenix. Booker, you got to leave. He never did. He never talked about it. And I'm like, that's such a class act. And then I see LeBron doing all the things I just said Booker didn't. Temper tantrums and getting angry and putting the scoring up because that's all he can play for this year. But like how many plays he takes off getting back to the defensive end. That's another thing like Booker did not do. Always hustling, always trying. I think it's really disappointing if you're a big fan of LeBron and you're wanting to make the case for greatest of all time. I think when Michael Jordan came back on the Wizards, he was super upset at the players around him and kind of they don't care about the game. They just want the money. I think LeBron is in some ways. I think Jordan would have had an issue with him. Like you're just trying and scoring. You're not hustling back. You're not playing hard. You're just getting on your teammates. I don't know. So I guess I agree with you in a long roundabout way.
Here's what bothers me the most is for years, for the entirety of his career up until the past couple of years, one of the biggest things I've always wanted to defend LeBron about is his upbringing, being called the chosen one at 16. The expectations that were put on him as a 16 and 17-year-old were unlike anyone else that has ever come before. And he somehow surpassed those expectations, I think, for the most part. Like, everyone said he was going to be the next great one, and he was better than they thought he was going to be.
Yeah.
Yet, I would have expected this behavior more when he was 20, not 37. And so what makes me question is someone who has always respected him and for the most part, liked him for the fact of where he came from and how easy it would have been to be what he is now and showing what he is now. Where did it come from? Was it hidden back then? Is it just he's old and grumpy and mad that my career is winding down and people are not going to say that I'm better than MJ and I have no more chances left at this point? I don't know where this is coming from, and I can't, I've wanted to defend LeBron for the reasons I've said before on previous podcasts, for the fact that I've always respected where he came from and how he conducted himself. Yet here I see him hitting people with elbows, complaining at his teammates for not getting the rebound when you could have grabbed that rebound yourself there, LeBron. Not getting back on defense, walking off the court when you're getting eliminated from a playoff series. Just all the things that you just can't do as a public figure, especially someone as prominent as he is.
I think you're onto something to an extent. I almost wonder, we can't really get inside his head. We can't get inside of any athlete's head. All we can do is sit here and speculate like anybody else of the talking heads on TV. I kind of feel like the Kareem thing is almost his last gasp attempt to be like, see, I have to be the best of all time. I have the most points now. I'm the only member of the 40,000, 10,000, 10,000 club, whatever, right? I want to be very clear here. I actually kind of liked seeing the emotion out of LeBron. I think it's a little petulant in a way, just given all the backstory we know about and what's around him and everything else and his own shortcomings. But for once, he actually almost looked more human instead of this weird, carefully sculpted pretend image that he and Rich Paul and his handlers around him have sculpted all these years. It was sort of nice to see the humanity trickle through. Because to me, when I think back to Jordan, it's like, you could definitely hate the guy. He was definitely an asshole in several facets, but he was never apologetically an asshole. You knew exactly what you were getting when you signed up to play with Michael Jordan, a guy who was going to push your ass every single practice and every single one of 82 games and every single playoff matchup. He was going to be on you and everybody else to hold them to the same caliber and excellence that he expected. With LeBron, I feel like you only get that when he's winning. And I think the image I almost put up here, I took the one right after the play we're referencing where he was slamming the ball and yelling at people. The one I could have put up there is the one that's been circulating ever since we kicked their ass in the playoffs last year, which is him posting up and Andre Drummond on the bench doing the same post-up motion and the Lakers bench clowning us down the stretch of Game 3. It was the perfect example of how they can dish shit out and can't take it. It's very appropriate that Russell Westbrook went to this team because you'll see this in that very Suns game from the other night. Malik Monk had a breakaway dunk on a turnover, dunked it, yelled out a primal yell, and it made the score 6-2 Lakers. They lost the remainder of that quarter to the point where they were down 48-22 at the end of it. So it's just one little tiny example, but it's a greater thing because think back to LeBron. Not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5 when he gets to Miami. They haven't done jack shit yet, but they're all playing it up and stuff. And that was earlier in his career. To Dave's point, that's the point at which I'd be like, he was still pretty young then. And I gave a certain allowance to that because he doesn't really know better. He should know better now. This is his 17th season. There's just no excuse for this to me. Yeah. And I'm a little bit frustrated because I want to like LeBron more than I do right now, but he makes it very difficult.
He's having he lived long enough to become the villain thing. Jaguar brings up a great point about choosing Kobe over LeBron. And a lot of it, I don't necessarily agree, but I get it. I understand it. And what is interesting about that is a lot of LA, I would venture most of LA fans feel the same way. Like this is Kobe's more than ever now. You always got a little bit of that, especially in the beginning, but then he won a title. And I think that was okay, I guess we can have LeBron too. Yeah. Now it is very much, this is Kobe's town. You're a fake Laker. You don't want to be here? You want to tease us with going back to Cleveland? Then just go. We don't care anymore. And I think that combined with the losing, combined with everything else, he's becoming the villain. And you would think the longevity would only add to his legacy, and I really wonder if we're going to look back and say it hurt it overall.
The worst decision he made for his career, despite the fact that he won a title, is going to LA. I mean, his rating, his popularity was never higher than after he won that title in 2016 in Cleveland, because he brought it back to his hometown. He was the one that, he left, came back. He was the prodigal son that came back and clinched it finally. And everyone loved him at that point. And man, he's going to be better than Michael. But he wanted to go to LA. He traded away all of the best players that could have made this team really good for Anthony Davis, who potentially they could have just got the next year in free agency as is. And look where they are now. I mean, he's the cause of it, and any sympathy that could have been put his way for the roster that's around him, you have to point right back at him for the fact that he's the one that built this roster, and you can't have sympathy for something that you built.
To come full circle on this, let me make 2 points. One is exactly along the lines of what you just said. Early in his career, not a lot of talent in Cleveland, dragged them to a finals where they got swept, and they were clearly not talented enough. And you could look around and be like, yeah, I mean, they've kind of let him down if his second best player is like Drew Gooden or Zydrunas Ilgauskas. Like, you can excuse that. We know he has a heavy say, if not the final word, in everything that happens. And that dates back to his Cleveland days. So the construction of this roster, you can no longer use as an excuse for him. You also can't use the age. What he's doing at 37, this many minutes on his career, is remarkable. Mm-hmm. I honestly don't think he even gets enough credit, to be honest, because you look at the players who are doing this at this stage of their career, and there's no precedence for it. It really is, like, awesome. However, there's a different, like, his fans will be like, well, I mean, you can't expect him to play defense at that level anymore. He's 37. He's carrying them on offense. It's like, you're right. I don't, though. What I do expect is for him to get his ass across half court. Yeah. So his team's not playing 5-on-4, multiple possessions every game they're losing by 20. That's not an unreasonable expectation. It's for him to be a token figure. And if he wants to go rest on a guy in the corner who's not much of a threat, I get that. I would almost say that's smart. But when you're back there 80 feet away, not even trying to get your ass across there for an entire 24-second defensive possession, that's the kind of stuff that would drive me crazy if I was a fan.
And again, like Jordan, hate him if you want. He has plenty of fuel there, but I believe him when he said, I never asked my team to do something I wasn't going to do. And led by example. And so he's not going to be like, hey, guys, get back on D. He's going to be the one getting back on D. He's going to be the one trying to the last second. So yeah, I think it hurts him. I wonder, you can't really do this in hindsight, right? It's not fair at all. But if he had like retired that last year in Cleveland, like they won the title in Cleveland and he's like, okay, like I did what I set out to do. I'm at the top of the mountain. I'm done. Like, can you argue that would not have been a better end to his legacy, even though he won another title in LA?
The problem is that there's zero chance that anyone would say he's better than Jordan. There'd be arguments that some people would have, but the consensus would be he didn't win enough. He won 3 championships. That's not enough.
But I guess my point is it better now? Like, has that changed?
In hindsight, yes. Absolutely in hindsight.
But at the time, I don't think he could have bowed out. I mean, I think the point is, because at the time, the nickname, the Le Blanc, I know I have it on the right-hand side, so I'm guilty. I just thought that one was kind of funny. The Le Blanc, Le Bomb, Le GM, Le blah, blah, blah is overdone. But Le 3 and 6 was super prominent, even after he won that title in Cleveland. And that's the difference between him and Jordan. Jordan infamously 6-0, never lost a finals. LeBron can never catch up to that. So I'm sure his thought was, well, I got to win at least a couple more if I want to be in that conversation.
Which I laugh at the people that make fun of him making the finals. I mean, you mentioned the 07 one where he dragged that Cavaliers team to the finals. That's one of the most impressive things I've ever seen, is that team had no business being in the finals. And yet somehow that's a negative. I remember there was a guy named Nick Wright who made a joke of that, where it's like, I'm really glad that it was somebody who lost in the first round. I'm really, I'm hoping this, it was when Jimmy Butler lost in the finals when he was on the Heat. It's like, man, I'm sorry this hurts his legacy losing in the finals. Like, this sucks that this is harming his legacy for losing the finals. It would have been better if he just lost in the first round. I love that argument. Like, you made the finals. It's like the Buffalo Bills made 4 Super Bowls in a row in the 90s. That's a bad thing that you made it 4 times in a row? Yeah, you lost all of them, but making it 4 times is pretty damn good.
Well, let me click this button then with that in mind, because as we transition to the final topic here, I am reminded of the fact that we were in the finals last year. We've talked it to death. We don't need to go down the road again, but I loved last season despite the way it ended. I've really been enjoying this season, and my goal has been to really take a step back and enjoy those little things. For example, on the screen for our listeners is Cam Johnson after his game winner against the Knicks 2 weeks ago, which he hasn't played again since. That's kind of sad, but I'm sure they're just being cautious. And to your point about like Nick Wright's comments, it's really hard to make it to the finals. It's really hard to make it to the playoffs. I mean, for all the joking, right now the Lakers are the 9 seed. And the Pelicans are another half game behind them because we just beat them tonight, so that kind of hurts us a bit. And the Lakers could get healthy and play us in the first round and beat our ass. There is a scenario where that happens. I'm not sure I'm as scared of a fully healthy Lakers team as I would have been last year, but the fact remains that with LeBron and Anthony Davis, that could happen. So what I'm trying to do is basically be like, this is fun. It's fun again. It wasn't fun for the better part of a decade. And while I really think this team is the favorite to win a title, and I will be very sad if they don't, I'm trying to, even over the course of this season, just enjoy it. They are 55-14. So looking at all these other things like the Lakers and their train wreck, and the Nets and the Kyrie Harden drama and Simmons and blah, 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 I'm just trying to be grateful for the fact that this team really plays well together, loves each other, and is playing well. I really am.
Well, especially... I always harp on this, but the more I years, I'm thinking, are we ever, you question, like, are we ever going to get back, even if we're good again, are we ever going to have a team that, like, was like that last Nash team? Like, where they play for each other, the great passing, like, great chemistry, they actually care about each other. Is that ever going to happen again? Like, it's hard, it's rare. And so this team, like, I totally agree with you. We have it again, and regardless of what the outcome is, it's been a great ride, and I'm grateful.
I agree with you, Chris, in the sense of just trying to enjoy the things as they come along. Like, I was just marveling at the day, and before we started the show, I was looking at the Suns' record, seeing 55-14, and thinking, my God, 55 wins. Like, that's a season. That's a full season. A pretty damn good
season.
That's
a very successful season.
Mm-hmm.
Very successful season. We have 13 more games to go still. Like, 60 wins is not only likely, it's pretty much expected at this point. Like, 5-8 is what we have to finish to get 60 wins on the season. That's stunning to me, because we've only had 60 wins, I think, 3 other times in our history.
Yep.
So, and then stopping to smell the roses of this, of that Cam Johnson winner against the Knicks, that whole fourth quarter by Cam Johnson just reminded me how much I love this team so much. And while, like what Chris said, like, it would be super disappointing to lose in the finals. This season has been so much fun. The past 2 years of basketball have been so much fun on a night in, night out basis to know we're going to play hard. We're probably going to win. And it's going to be a beautiful thing to watch the entire time. And I love it.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing that makes me happy is, like, we should be at least good for a while, like, what's our record? It's hard because Booker's been out for some of those too, but, like, our record, even without Paul, has been pretty good still. Not as elite certainly, but it's still been pretty good. And so you look at that and you're like, maybe if we can get another good piece or a campaign keeps developing, we could be good for a while. We have a lot of young guys. If we can keep paying them, keep them on the roster. And so I like that. I'm always somebody who likes to look forward. On vacation, I'm looking forward to the next vacation, right? So as the Suns are good, I like to look forward to, like, okay, this is going to be a thing. We're not like the Diamondbacks that won the World Series. Like, great, but now what? It's like, we're going to be good for a while, and I like that.
Yeah, we're kind of showing that we won't be the best in the league without Chris Paul all the time, but I mean, we're doing it right now. We're still playing at a top of the NBA type of pace right now. I think we've lost 3 games since the All-Star break.
Yeah, we're 6-3 without Paul.
It's a damn good winning percentage, 66% winning percentage. That's pretty good.
Yeah, that's actually very good.
Well, and those losses are a red-hot Pelicans team, the defending champs on the road, where we were in that to, like, the last 45 seconds.
Booker and Paul,
correct.
By the way.
So, like, there's really nothing. If you could have told me that was what we're going to look like when Paul first got hurt, I'm like, sold, deal.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And, like, this is where I almost want to be. I don't know what other Suns fans are watching. I'm sure there's a few out there. To me, it's like, look, be fans, criticize when you want to. We were even a little bit hard on Ayton the very first game coming out of that stretch where he had, like, 6 points and 3 rebounds in 33 minutes or some nonsense, which I think was still somewhat fair. The point being, like, one isolated example, I saw Torrey Craig was getting some beef because he was shooting like 22% from 3. since he rejoined the team. And I'm like, it's a bad stretch, but, things are good. Like, we're eating well as Suns fans right now. And I got to be honest, the first game he came back, just watching him check in, he hit his first three, and it just seemed like it was so seamless. I mean, I know he was just here last season. I got a little choked up just watching him come in the game. I was like, oh my God, like he's one of us.
Yeah.
And he's back, and the team
like
just
Torrey
embraces him, and they fit him in like he never left.
Yep.
Like, that stuff got me. So even though he hasn't been quite shooting, like he played well tonight, it's going to balance out. Like, there's going to be plenty of time to gripe about the little things, especially when it gets magnified in the playoffs. But right now, you just got to enjoy the ride.
It kills me a little bit, Dave, because you famously have said if we had JaVale, we would have won the finals. And so to watch tonight when I turned on the radio and he had like 6 points, I think, and then by the time I drove home, he had 12, and just like put back after defensive play after dunk, and I'm like, man, I think you're right. So, try not to be too regretful. Like you said, like enjoy where we are now, but yeah, it's been fun, and I do have high hopes. But yeah, maybe we lose first round of the Lakers.
You know what I love the most about this team? Like, I think the absolute most about this team, besides the obvious of we're winning a ton, they're playing good basketball. We have put in people off the street or traded for cash considerations. We brought in Bismack Biyombo, who was doing absolutely nothing, and he slides in when Ayton's gone and JaVale McGee's hurt. Fine, slide right in, play well. Aaron Holiday, nobody wanted him. We'll bring him in, and he's a solid. He's supposed to be our third stringer. He's a solid backup and playing really well. Ish Wainwright, even someone like that who isn't gonna isn't gonna have a super long career or be a superstar. He plays hard. He has games
why?
where he wins.
Culture, which is the guys, the system, and the coach. And imagine if Monty was as good as Tom Thibodeau, the coach of the year of last year. Like how much better we could even be. But you got to give Monty credit for what he's done. Seriously though, like we become a place where we're known for culture, and like that to me, that almost is what chokes me up because we were so far from that. When we were bad, we had one of the worst cultures in the league. Not really our guys' fault, but management was a mess, and the owner was a mess, and we were losing, and we've turned it around. We're like a destination now, kind of.
How old is Monty Williams? In his 50s, I think.
Somewhere
around,
early 50s.
Yeah, I think of Greg Popovich, which is where Monty learned the vast majority of his coaching style. I mean, we really are kind of like the Spurs of the 2014s in the way our offense runs and the way our team plays. I'm fine. He wants to be here for 20 years. It sounds great to me.
Yeah. Yep.
So anyways, that was just one final plea. Not that the two of you need it, or even some of our listeners, but just as I'm sifting through all this drama and watching the Lakers implode, I'm reminded of the fact that, man, it is so much nicer to be here than where we were 2 years ago.
The thing I think about too is that I know I've seen a lot of fans complaining that we're not getting the national love, that we're not getting the attention that the Lakers are getting. Fine, I don't care. Like,
it's never gonna happen.
We never
anyway.
will.
Yeah,
we never will.
What does it matter?
Like, what have the Bucks gotten this year? Certainly more attention. It elevated their status, but they've been drowned out by the Lakers and the Nets and the Sixers and all this drama over the course of the season, to the point where like people are forgetting that Giannis probably deserves to be right there with Jokic and Embiid as far as the MVP conversation. His numbers are exactly the same as Embiid's for the most part. He's not quite as efficient from three or the line, but other than that, like their counting stats are very close. So like the Bucks haven't gotten a ton. Like there's always a certain amount of respect that comes with being a champion, but have they all of a sudden become like that level of, no, the Lakers and the Nets and all those big market teams are always going to be king.
If we win like 10 titles in a row, maybe that'll change. But, even in the Nash years, one of the most marketable teams we've ever had, we would get some love, but it was mostly still about what Kobe's doing. Even like as a 8th seed Lakers, we cared about Kobe, we cared about LA. So it's always going to be that way.
Well,
unless we win 10 in a row, Dave.
Well,
which will make us be hated, by the way.
Yes.
That's fine.
Which I don't care about.
Bring it all on.
Yeah.
I got to say, though, it was a fun ride, but Jamal Murray, I think, came back today, so it's over, guys. We're done.
He did? He came back?
Or coming back soon. I think he's coming back soon. I can't remember exactly the day,
okay.
But yeah, it's over. It'll be over soon. Jamal Murray's coming back, so we're done.
I mean, it'll be interesting to see. I have high hopes, but
I mean, Anthony Davis said we got away with 1. How many games has Murray been out for? We got away with 90. We got away with 100. It's over now, though. We're gonna go winless the rest of the season, and that's a shame. That's just a damn shame.
Yep.
Alrighty, well, that's pretty much the end of the episode. Yeah. Yeah, see, Jack Rush bringing up the exact point where it's like the undisputed. Yeah, the perfect example. Any talking head show, any national media show, because that's what gets eyes. That's what people want to tune in for.
Yeah.
They want to watch them talk about the Lakers. They don't want to have them pick apart the nuance of an Aaron Holiday, JaVale McGee pick and roll. Nobody
That's why
cares.
I go to Zach Lowe and Kevin O'Connor.
Yeah.
Those guys are fun to listen to for that reason.
Yeah.
I suppose so. Alrighty, well, that's the end of the episode. Thank you all for joining us. I didn't change the top of this slide. Oh, no, I had everything else perfect. But, we're back at the same time for us, and this is the last time I'm going to bring it up. But again, 10:30 Eastern. Although, as Dave mentioned in the very beginning, there is a national bill just kind of sitting there waiting for Biden to sign it as far as abolishing daylight savings time nationwide.
Interesting.
Permanent daylight savings time, actually. That's what's interesting, and I don't like it as much, but this is we'll have a different
discussion. Yeah, but it would effectively mean the switch would stop happening either way. So for the time being, though, that's when we're going to be. So ignore the top there. It's actually 10:30 Eastern, and that's the way it's going to be until November, so we won't talk about it again.
Or never change again.
Yeah, maybe. As always, thank you for watching and listening. We will see you next week. In between episodes, you can find us at our website, objectionnetwork.com or youtube.com/objectionnetwork for all the video fun you've been coming to enjoy. We'll see you next time.